on multidisciplinary approaches to folklife, challenges and perspectives, part 1. Thank you all for joining us today. The first 2 days of the webinar have been very profound, and I hope that this session will also be equally insightful for all of us. So the 4 paper presenters that we have in this session are Lal Sangswali Tulor, Aditi Sanga, Pradip Khan, and Palachandar Rai. I request the 4 presenters to please raise their
Niharika, please unmute.
Okay.
Now you can continue.
So should I go again, or was I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Was I audible before?
Mm.
I was not. Okay. So should I go again?
Continue, Niharika. It is audible. Earlier also it was audible. Now also audible. Continue.
Okay. So do we have all the 4 paper presenters here? Kindly.
We have 2 presenters. At present, we have 2 presenters, and if other people also joined, Miss or Mr. Aditi Sangha and another person is Mr. Balachandar. If they are there, please raise your hands. Otherwise, you continue with the 2 paper presenters, then we can think about other people.
So before we go on to our first speaker of the day, let me remind you that the time allotted to each speaker is 20 minutes for the presentation, which will be followed by 10 minutes of discussion. All the participants can raise queries in the chat box, and they will be taken up as soon as the paper is over, keeping in mind the time limitation. Please adhere to these rules. I also request all the speakers to please introduce themselves in brief before they begin their presentation. So without any delay, let me invite our first speaker, Ms. Lal Sangswali Tulor, to begin her presentation. You may proceed now.
Good morning, everyone.
Ask to introduce yourself first.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lal Sangswali Tulor, and I'm from Haflong. I'm presently working as assistant professor in the Department of English, Haflong Government College, Assam. And I'm also presently pursuing my PhD in the Department of Mizoram University, in the Department of English, Mizoram University. And my topic is patriarchal resistance, a study of Mar folk tales and songs. But then the topic that I'm going to do today is entirely different from it's not connected, it's not related to my topic of PhD. It is a general, so to say, collection or a study of how, folklore has, has started to be, collected, or how it entered into the mainstream of as a separate study since the past, and then I'll be deliberately extending it to the present context as to how. And due to the paucity of time, I'll be, minimizing my paper to 20 minutes. I hope I'll be able to keep that. For that, I had to, really make my collection and record a little precise. I hope you understand that. And as we were discussing with Mr. Professor Patnaik, I really see forward to an opportunity to present my Par folk tales sometime in future. Thank you. So let me begin. I shall share my screen first. Is it visible?
No, it has not come.
Has it come?
Yes, ma'am.
Now it is visible.
Yes, it is visible.
I'm a little, has it come?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, we can see
It
your
has come,
screen.
right?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
yeah. So,
Make it full screen.
yeah, yeah. Just a minute. It should be from the beginning. Is it full screen now?
Oh, yes, it
Yes,
is.
ma'am.
It is.
Okay,
It is.
okay. Okay. Now, folklore, generally incorporates folk songs, dance, tales, myths, superstitions, and all that. And it is not merely, literature transmitted orally, but includes the art and crafts, the belief systems, the customs, and etc. But for today, my paper would be concentrated only on the major works of folkloristic importance that have contributed to the folklore studies in India. And as I have told, the materials which I have collected may not be up to the mark. And if you all have suggestions, anything to add, sir and madam, whoever is present here, I will be very happy and delighted to incorporate that for my future record. So the main objective of this paper is tracing the development in the studies of folklore in India in the past to the present, in the British or missionary period, the national period, and the academic or post-independence period. Now, V. Gordon Childe in Social World of Knowledge asserted that it was impossible to create past knowledge on its own terms. Rather, it was the historian's business to locate in their proper social and chronological context those thoughts that are still living and active in our culture. In taking this position, Childe maintained that there must be a connection, however obscure it might be, between the past and the present. Now, folklores are oral traditions of the traditional customs, knowledge, and belief system transmitted by word of mouth. Literature in written form helped in the preservation of folklores and oral traditions. Written and recorded folklores in the process of transition from one generation to the other may not retain the originality and lofty ideas, and as such, it may undergo some change. Indian literature, compared to other world literature, played a dominant role in the preservation of oral tradition and folklores. India remains one of the world's richest sources of folk tales. The discipline of folk tales, began in the 19th century. The Grimm brothers published the first volume of their celebrated Kinder and Hosmerchen in 1812, while the English word folklore was coined until Thomas first proposed it in 1846. Now, India is a country with a variety of languages, dialect, religion, caste, and tribes, and all confluence speaks about its diversity and in the beauty of its diversity. Now, the culture encompasses intellectual, aesthetic, and spiritual attributes of the people. India has a record of possessing the oldest oral tradition in the world. The best examples among them are the Rig Veda, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Puranas, and Upanishads. Now, the dual tradition of oral and written form has contributed to the theoretical and methodological issues of Indian folklore. Now, ethnographic account relates that the voluminous folklore materials belong to history or Sanskrit language. Now, from time to time, these oral narrative versions were collected and put to writing by literary and scholarly persons. The more well-known collections are the Buddhist Jatakas, the Jataka tales, the Panchatantras, the Katha Sarit Sagara, the Hitopadeshas, and Vetar Panchavim Sati. Among these, the Jatakas are about 200 years old, and the Panchatantras, the Katha Sarit Sagara, are almost 100 years old. The Panchatantra had been translated into various Middle Eastern and Western languages like Persian, Arabic, Hebrew, Latin, German, and Italian. Despite a rigorous tradition of anthropological work on the Indian subcontinent, folk narratives and oral traditions were not subjected to, analytical tools over the years, and unfortunately, it remained untouched. However, in the recent years, scholars have realized the significance and need to study oral traditions in order to understand the reality of the Indian culture in a comprehensive manner. And continuous effort, which I will be dealing with towards the end when we come to the present context, and new approaches have been adopted by social scientists and linguists and have contributed in sharpening the theoretical growth of folkloristic. Now, coming to the first period, which is the British or the missionary period. Now, the Christian missionaries propagated Christianity among the caste-ridden, poor natives of India. And, they had to deal with the local people. And in order to propagate that religion, the Christian religion, they had to come close to the native people, know them, study them, so that they will be able to propagate that religion. And now in that process, they started learning the regional languages, and they started collecting the folklore. Now, which, apparently granted them a closer proximity, coming closer to the people, knowing them, and, they actually use those folklores so that these people would be able to understand what they were actually propagating. So to come down to that level, they had to, understand them, know their customs and all that. Now they wanted to acquire the knowledge of the people to recreate their religious literature for, evangelical purpose. Now there were, important journals during this time. Sorry. I'll just read it out. I did not put it in my slide. The Journal of Royal Asiatic Society of Bengal, 1774. Indian Antiquary, 1874. Journal of the Anthropological Society of Bombay in 1886. Now, they published the folklore collection, and they gave impetus to the collection and publication of folklore materials. All these journals, which I have just mentioned. Now, during this period, Christian missionaries began spreading Christian principles, as I have already mentioned, through folklores. All right. Now, besides these journals, there were also publications from the British administrators and their family. Okay, and then and all these publications with their findings gave an insight into human science. Now, these books catered to the needs of the Indian studies, basically founded on Sanskrit texts. Now, however, oral narratives and other genres of folklore sometimes found its way in these journals. So these journals were enriched by all these, books and narratives and folktales. Now in this missionary period, the missionaries, with their zeal of propagating their religion, they were driven to all those remote villages in India where they witnessed and experienced the rural life and gathered information, as I've already mentioned, about their habits and customs and all that. Now, the writings of these missionaries marked a significant Indian spirit, since they were, interacting with all these local, or so to say, rural rural Indians. Now, their writings were somewhat, Indian in nature. Okay, it symbolized something about India, and they form a bulk of the great treasures of folklore that remained as record of our historic past. Now, the history of the publication of folklore collection can be traced back to, these are the list of the works which I have gathered: fairies, old Deccan days, and Hindu fairy legends current in southern India, collected from oral tradition, published in 1868. Then followed by another publication, Indian Fairy Tales by M. Stokes and A.J. Du Bois, Hindu Manners, Customs and Ceremonies. J. Hinton Novels, Dictionary of Kashmiri Proverbs and Sayings. Folk Tales of Kashmir, Oral Stains. Hatim Tales, Charles C. Grover's The Folk Tales of Southern India, and John Lazarus, Dictionary of Tamil Proverbs. And these are some of the best examples of the early folklore studies of the missionary period. Now, besides the missionaries, there were also those bureaucratic class who collected and studied folklore from all parts of the country. And it was through their endeavor that a large body of data was collected, which later became a source of account for later scholars to study folklore. Besides others, I would like to mention G.A. Grierson's voluminous work, The Linguistics Survey of India, between 1903 to 7, which contains, besides data on languages, a variety of oral narratives. So this is a very voluminous work, and it is very significant. And a lot of information of about Northeast also has been given in this book. Now, special mention may also be made of Verrier Alvin, whose work brought the attention of the British policy towards the welfare of the tribal people of the Northeast. He himself married a tribal girl and further propagated towards the protection and development of the cultural diversity of the tribal people. He is remembered as a tireless ethnographer and folklorist ever to this day. Coming to the next period, which is the national period or nationalistic period. Now, the work of the missionaries and the civil servants in the previous year stimulated the interest of the Indian intellectuals and became aware of their cultural roots and sought to be free politically and culturally. Alan Duns, in the study of folklore, stated that a member of the group may not know the common core of traditions belonging to the group, traditions which help the group to have a sense of group identity. Now, it was this sense of identity that brought the Indian intellectuals to the common core of traditions belonging to them. Now, folklore became instrumental in, stimulating the spirit of nationalism before and after achieving independence. Folklore no longer remained the domain of the Christian missionaries, and the native intellectuals began studying them, marked by national language, epics, ancient values and thoughts, folklore and literature. Now, these collected materials began to be viewed and studied in an Indian context and served as a medium for transmission of ideas. Now, the nationalist movement has hastened the growth of folklore studies, and simultaneously it rejuvenated the movement by bringing it closer to the, rural manners and conduct. Now, these are the major works on folklore of the period: the Gore's Loka Sahitya, Upendra Datta Gupta's Folk Tales of Orissa, Somnath Kashmir Folk Tales, Kunja Bihari Das, Vila Pushpa, Devendra Satyarthi's Bela Phule Adhi Raat, Ram Naresh Tripathi, Hamara Gram Sahitra, Dinesh Chandra Sen Sati, and the Folk Tales of Bengal. Now, in the academic or post-independence period, now soon after India gained independence, which was an extension of the earlier, nationalistic period we just mentioned. Now, after independence, concern and technique from anthropology started to be employed in developing more in-depth analysis of Indian folklore. Unlike the strong missionary bureaucratic commitment or the nationalistic feeling of the preceding period, the nature of investigation of the study in this period was based more on analysis and authenticity. The period has seen a development of folklore as an academic discipline, both in the university and outside, with a profound struggle of a new nation and a search for truth and reality. A very noteworthy achievement of this period is witnessed in the preservation of the cultural diversity of the nation. As such, the collection and study of folklore attained a remarkable impetus and thus helped the growth of folklore studies in various regions. Now, it began attaining fundamental position in the cultural location of the country, among other important disciplines. And interdisciplinary researches in folklore, besides regional folklore and independent programs in folklore studies, have been established. There are accounted many regional, both government and voluntary recognized bodies that have helped in the collection and analytical work of regional folklore. Now, in the modern democratic India, folk literature is pursued both within the academic and outside, and efforts of the Sahitya Academy and other similar such organizations form part of this collective attempt to preserve and disseminate Indian folk literature. The Sahitya Academy also promotes Indian folk literature by giving awards in minor languages, languages without scripts and tribal dialects. Now, the Academy also promotes publishing folk tales in its journals, holding conventions and publishing folk literature books, and has centers to preserve and promote oral traditions in India. Now, Indian folklore possesses great potential for a comprehensive understanding of Indian culture and civilization by its past, ancient past, I should say, diversity, structural complexity, then functional importance. Now, according to a survey of folklore studies in India by Professor M. Nagaraju, Bangalore, universities in India have conducted research in folklore and awarded PhD degrees, and literates like Kunja Bihari Das, Prafulla Dutt, Surjit Singh, G.S. Paramshivaya, Gadich Mat, Baba Giri Mitra, S.D. Lordun, Nayani Krishna Kumari, Chumar Chundar Babu Singh, Jawaharlal Nehru, etc. were awarded PhD degree for their contribution to the folklore field. And since the last 30 years, folklore in India has attracted many scholars to define folklore as they see and observe. Now, Indian folklorists, Devendra Satyarthi, Krishnadeva Upadhyaya, Javerchand Meghrani, Prafulla Datta Goswami, Ashutosh Bhattacharya, Kunja Bihari Das, Chitrasen Pasayal, Somnath Dhar, Ramgarib Chaube, Jagdish Chandra Trigunayan, and many more senior folklorists have contributed immensely to the study of folklore. Of course, the trend was more literary than analytical, but it was during the 1970s that some folklorists studied in the United States universities who trained themselves up with the modern theories and methods of folklore research. Especially South Indian universities for folklore as a discipline in the universities, and hundreds of scholars trained up on folklore. Now, in the present time of post-colonial and post-modern theoretical studies, folkloristics have developed a broad dimension of intermingling with different disciplines like anthropology, sociology, literary and cultural studies, and linguistics, etc. We may also mention gender studies and all that. Now, folklore studies have integrated multidimensional approaches and responding to contemporary social, cultural, and economic theories. Now, in the present day, situation, any item of folklore is considered, as stated by Handu in a book called Folklore in Northeast India, published by Soman Sen, that any item of folklore is considered as a living aspect in which it has changed the entire panorama of theoretical bias, and folklore specialists began thinking of their areas of inquiry as a living phenomenon with hopes both of the present and the future. The present India and what folklore could become in the future. Now it was during the 1980s that the Central Institute of Indian Languages and the American Institute of Indian Studies started their systematic study on folklore in public domain, bridging the gap of academic domain and community domain, thereby creating a space for scholars who are pursuing the study on folklore. Moreover, many Western as well as Eastern scholars pursued their studies on folklore as a discipline. Now, the National Folklore Support Center, Chennai, since the last 10 years, has created a space for the new scholars who are pursuing the study on folklore. Now, these are the pioneers of folklorists, folklore. Jawaharlal Nehru, Chitrasen Pasayal.
Please wind up in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yes.
Please wind up in 5 minutes.
Yes, this is the end of my paper. All right, thank you.
Ma'am, thank you for this enlightening presentation. You have very beautifully shown us the evolution of folklore studies in India, where you covered the British period, the nationalist period, and then post-independence, and you also discussed the further potential in folklore studies. So thank you very much, ma'am. I now request all those of you who have questions to please put up in the chat box. We already have one question from Professor P.C. Patnaik. He asks, any folkloric material used in the creative writings is an example of documentation. Do they really help in the preservation?
Pardon, will you please repeat? There was it was a little blurred. Your voice was coming out a little blurred. Can you please repeat the question?
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, he asks, any folkloric material used in the creative writings is an example of documentation. Do they really help in the preservation?
Yeah, I think so, because actually, whatever is recorded, it as I have already mentioned, I hope I will be able to answer this question. Whatever is coming to my mind, these written records, whatever it may be, though it may not have a direct significance or a direct connection to whatever you are doing today, but it somehow is, it somehow relates about the history, about the past, and how things have evolved or how things have changed, what it used to be. Okay, so whatever documentation that we find, it may be from the European writers, their theories or their concept. I think we can, actually, there can be a correlation, or these things can be incorporated in folklore studies today. Sir, I hope I have answered.
Okay. Moving on to the next question. Dr. Uma Devi has a question for you. She's asking you to explain the role of Indian women folklorists.
Pardon? Indian?
Women folklorists. About the
Indian
role
women.
of Indian.
Yeah, sorry, ma'am, I will not be able to do this because, as I told, since I have to, compress my, writing and my presentation in 20 minutes, I am just giving a general, idea about all that. I'm really sorry, I could not concentrate towards that because it would be too, vast, and due to this paucity of time, I could not, I'm really sorry, reflect my thoughts towards that. It came to my mind. Songs also came, those cultural songs of the balls of Bengal. I wanted to represent all that, but then I made my paper very specific, and I'm really sorry. I will not be able to highlight this area in this present webinar.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. That is it for the questions. So, so I can move on to the next speaker then.
Yes.
Do we have Aditi Sangha here? If you are here, please raise your hand. And if not, we can move on to the next speaker. We can take her up when she joins. So I don't think she's here yet. So we have Tridip Khan here. And so I would like to invite you to take up the mic and please
unmute and ask him to unmute himself.
Yes, sir. Please introduce yourself.
No, please make him the co-host. Yeah.
Oh, he's not the co-host.
Thank you, sir. I am Tridip Khan, and currently I am working as a state-aided college teacher in Chandrakona Vidyasagar Mahavidyalaya, which is affiliated to Vidyasagar University, and I am working in the English department. And now I am working on folk arts of Bengal and specifically the performative arts of Bengal. And my paper is on pot show and Krishna Jatra. Basically, these two folk arts. And the title of my paper is Critiquing Pot Show and Krishna Jatra, Modernization and the Making of Extinct Cultural Practices in Bengali Culture. My paper is on the folk arts of Bengal, which were popular ones, but are fading day by day due to modernization of the Bengali society. I am trying to find out the causes that have put the folk arts of Bengal in this situation. The cultural practices of Bengal are becoming modernized day by day, and the scenario of presentation of art or the performative arts is changing day by day. With the ever-growing modernization and hybridization, no single culture is pure today. That is, everything is hybrid, and everything is achieving new dimensions in course of time, and Bengali culture is not an exception. The cultural practices like pot show or Krishna Jatra, which are combined form of different communications such as visual, mainly the pot show is visual, oral and musical, and the Krishna Jatra is also, which has been practiced in West Bengal since the 18th centuries, or the pot show were in practice before the 18th century also. As a result of modernization, the Bengali culture, even at the regional level, is neglecting and rejecting its own practices. Just 50 to 60 years ago, this practice, that is the potso, was popular in different regions of West Bengal. People were interested in it, but as much as the Bengali culture is becoming modernized, the people even of the regional areas are neglecting it and adopting some other practices. That is, some modernized practices which are new now. Now, in some cities, it is just an area of research instead of cultural practices to some academicians. The potso or potchitro has been changed a little bit with the culture as a result of modernization, such as its lyrics and content of the painting and the overall theme of the potso, mainly from a simplified oral and visual presentation of Indian myth and legend to an oral and visual presentation of contemporary society of West Bengal. Some of the potso songs and paintings vividly present how society has been changed and side by side the rituals and practices of the people. The impact of modernization is so massive that some cultural practices have been modernized and some have become endangered or almost extinct. The focal point of this paper is to analyze how, due to modernization, some Bengali rituals have been modernized and some have become endangered and almost extinct now. Westernization of Bengali culture started as early as the British East India Company started ruling Bengal. After the arrival of the British, Bengali upper class people started adopting their culture and lifestyle as much as possible. From Dhoti Punjabi Bengali to Coat Tie Bengali, a massive change took place in the upper class society of Bengal. English became the language of expression and fashion, better to say, a way to show social status. It became the medium of education and administration also. But the creation of art and literature in the Bengali language was abandoned in the 19th and 20th century. Bengal published innumerable literary pieces composed in Bengali and added a figure like Nobel Prize in the crown with a groundbreaking poet like Rabindranath Tagore. Poetry, drama, novel, and story side by side. A bulk of oral literature also flourished in the Bengali language, best known as folk literature, mainly composed in Bengali dialects spoken outside Kolkata. That is the adjoining districts of West Bengal. The oral tradition is not new or was not new, as it existed in different forms long before the written literature put its step. Different types of performing art were launched in undivided Bengal, that is in pre-colonial Bengal, and in course of time, some of these types have been modernized or changed, keeping in mind the need of the people. That is the acceptance rate of these types by the people. Due to the westernization of Bengali culture, some folk art or loco-sahitya have lost relevance, as there are different types of entertainments and people are attracted to those modern types to a great extent. The performance of Krishna Jatra, also known as Kaliya Daman, can be traced back to 16th century Bengal. Sri Chaitanya Deva himself performed this type of art. Evidence of Sri Chaitanya Deva's performance can be traced to Chaitanya Bhagavat. This type of performance was of the common people, that is illiterate or semi-literate people, as the Sanskrit drama was not intelligible to them. Then Sanskrit drama was for the upper class and Brahmins, as these groups could afford education. So different types of folk art were created to entertain the common illiterate or semi-literate people of Bengal. The Krishna Jatra was popular in the 17th and 18th century after the opening of theatre halls like Old Playhouse and several playhouses during the 18th century, and the the performing arts of Bengal started flowing in a different course. People showed their interest in the performance of the play in rural areas also. The play performance, the version is better known as a jatra, a kind of folk theatre, became popular after the westernization and modernization of Bengali culture. Jatra was popular not only during the colonial period but also in the previous centuries and is still a popular art form in West Bengal and Bangladesh, basically in the rural areas. But the theme and performing style and stagecraft has been changed due to modernization and technological invention. Side by side, other folk arts also have been modernized to match society's demand. But as some art forms could not adopt all the features of modern art, lost importance to the audience, and the jatra became widely popular, attracting the masses with modernized stagecraft and adopting the modern musicals and new technologies. Jatra became more entertaining than other folk arts such as Krishna Jatra, Kobigan, Kheu, Akrai, Hap Akrai, Potso, Katinach, Topka, etc. These art forms became less important to the people. So, lack of interest put some distinct and popular art forms once widely popular at risk. The Krishna Jatra was performed in rural areas, though small in number, until the 1980s and 1990s, and became extinct during the first decade of the 21st century. Now, in this current decade, the younger generation is reading about it in the history of Bengali literature or the history of Bengali culture. During the 18th century, in the undivided Bengal, composition of different types of folk song were in vogue. Kobigan or Torja, Akrai, Hap Akrai, and Topkagan became popular in Bengal as these types of song or performance of these types of folk art were a source of pleasure and entertainment to the folk of Bengal. Till the emergence of writers like Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, Michael Madhusudan Datta, and others, the performance and composition of this type of folk art was in vogue. After the inauguration of English education and the intellectuals of Bengal started creating modern Bengali art, and these types of modern art forms were so influential that folk art lost its importance to a great extent. In the 19th and 20th century, different types of folk art, those I have mentioned above, were performed in rural areas and semi-urban areas, but lack of interest in creating new pieces of those types was also prominent as the folk of Bengal became accustomed to watching drama performance or jatra performance, and after the inaugural of cinema halls, the folk started neglecting the folk art. As a result, the artisans of folk art became unable to earn their livelihood by practicing their hands in folk art. Mainly, the artisans of folk art belonged to the economically weaker section of Bengal. So, apart from lack of interest, the lack of earning also influenced the folk artisans, and slowly the practice of this art got weaker and weaker. Kobigan was popular in the 18th century and 19th century Bengal. This type mainly focused on religious issues during the 18th and 19th century. Later on, this folk art featured social and political issues also. Nowadays, the performance of this folk art has become rare, and as this art has not adopted modern technologies or can showcase what the audience of the contemporary time demand. Similar is the case with Akrai, Hap Akrai, Topogakan, Katinach, and so on. Pottel gun or pot songs have been inherited from generation to generation side by side the art of painting and performing style. This is the tradition. The potuas or the members of Chittokar family practice their hands in this art as a potter or carpenter practice his hand in the art in which his family has been involved. In Bengali, this is called Jatbitri. This system has been helping not only Bengali society but also the whole of India to practice the caste system also. In India, members of these castes, I mean the groups of people involved in creating various art forms, are generally treated as inferior. Their art may be helpful to the upper class society, but the upper class only takes this art as much as needed. After the westernization and modernization of Bengal, the rural areas cultural practices also came under the control of the urban area. The Bengali dialect spoken in Kolkata became the standard Bengali, making the other dialects inferior. During the first century of colonialism, literature produced in Bengal was mainly in that type of Bengali which is known as Sadhu Bhasha or Sadhu Bangla. So literature mainly for performance produced in dialects spoken in rural areas by illiterate or semi-literate people comes under the umbrella term Lokosahitya, and the culture that has been featured in those art forms umbrella term Lokosanskriti. And as Kolkata became the epicenter of Bengali culture, which can be marked as Bengali urban culture, started controlling all forms of media, including news, cinema, and even jatra performed in rural areas of to entertain the common folk. And the mainstream Bengali literature adopted the Bengali of Kolkata, even if the composer belonged to the rural area. He or she opted for the Bengali used or spoken in Kolkata. That is the standard Bengali. In course of time, people of rural area became accustomed to speak in local dialect at home and local area, and standard Bengali in office or at any institution. Even in any cultural program, also the folk of Bengal started speaking in standard Bengali, and in course of time it became a trend. The language of the potter gun, being regional languages or dialects of different parts of Bengal, can influence the people in the same way as anything presented in the standard Bengali. The language or dialect matters, or approach to dialect matters to a great extent when we are talking about regional art and culture. Regional art and culture of any region are dependent on the dialect or regional language of the concerned region. When we are reading in Bengali medium school, or we are reading in standard Bengali, we are reading a newspaper or watching news channels that use the standard language. This same standard Bengali is used in Bengali movies, songs, and TV shows. In some exceptional genres of songs which are known as Lokogiti, Baul, etc., use regional dialects. In Bengali movies, the regional dialects are mainly used to evoke laughter or to create a hilarious situation. For instance, mainly the dialects that are traditionally spoken in Bangladesh have been used in movies produced in West Bengal, and the motto of this is not to present that dialect as a medium of expression but to produce laughter. And this is a tradition, and this is how the usage of the language by different mass media has become a threat to these folk arts, because people have become accustomed to treat any art having local dialects as inferior. Besides, the folk art has been used to meet some social need in urban areas but none is interested to practice hands in those arts such as potso or cartoonage. From the very beginning of modernization and the emergence of newer art forms, negligence has become a common issue. Potso features different varieties of themes such as religious stories, myth and legends, lives of monks, political matters, Bengali lifestyle and society current happenings, and so on. The pot kela is comprised of mainly the pot that is painting and the lyrical song sung during the display of the painting. In some cases, musical instruments are also used, but in most cases, the performance is done by a single person. The auteur sings the song according to the painting frames. A large number of pots are made based on the stories from Ramayana, Mahabharata, Purana, and other sacred texts of the Hindu religion. The gorgeous Sanskrit slokas have been maintained in the local tongue of the illiterate folk, producing simplified narration of the stories told in the sacred texts. So the pot shows the power of educating the common illiterate folk regarding the Hindu myth and sacred texts can be denied. It imparted education among the audience while entertaining. So it can be put in the strata of multimedia education or audio-visual education also. During the period when education was only for the Brahmin and upper class people, Potso, side by side Krishna Jatra, Kovigan, etc. was a medium to educate the illiterate folk. A large number of pot songs are on myth and legends, some on political issues and other themes, and some on society and social changes that have taken place from time to time in Bengal. Especially, I am trying to focus on the very theme that portrays social changes and modernization. Immediately after the inauguration of cinema halls in different urban and semi-urban areas, a change in taste took place among the then younger generation. The younger generation became accustomed to visit the cinema halls from time to time. It became a fashion. There is a large number of pot songs that vividly portrays the changes that have taken place in modern Bengali society. The lifestyle has been changed and the taste and the demand also. But this change is crucial as it adopts new practices or practices from different cultures and neglects some old practices. It can be said to some extent that a large number of people started neglecting folk art and loving modern art like cinema from that very time, and Eve started revering the folk art of Bengal. The folk artists work on folk art to earn money, and the lack of interest of the people put those artists in a critical condition. A large number of folk artists had to adopt another profession. Consequently, the transmission of art from generation to generation was stopped to some extent. It can't be said that all the artists left their profession or the transmission has been stopped, but the people of those communities are trying to get modern education and job. Thereby, the tradition is broken to some extent. The modern lifestyle or the modern art of living permits modern art and customs to flourish, giving a little space to that traditional old folk art. Nowadays, this folk art has become a hot area of research where a huge number of scholars are involved. These art forms are in the arena of academia now, but the society doesn't permit to flourish these arts as the taste of the modern Bengali society is something different now. With the modernization, Bengali culture has adopted different practices from other cultures. The cultures of West Bengal of contemporary time is different from that of the 18th and 19th century. Nowadays, the costume, manner, and taste of the people of Bengal are not the same as it was earlier. The folk arts of Bengal also have been transformed to some extent, but cannot fulfill the demand of contemporary modern people. In front of different types of entertainment available nowadays, the folk arts such as Potso, Kovigan, Topkagan, Katinach appears less attractive. After the European Union's endeavor to collect the Potachitra of Bengal, a change has been noticed in this folk art. Now, the Potso is in transition. It has been taking place in different art museums, but the place of this art is reducing day by day in both West Bengal and Bangladesh. So where this art form was widely popular once. Due to modernization and westernization of Bengali culture and emergence of different types of entertainment, some old folk arts are taking place in the pages of history. Krishna Jatra, once a popular folk art of Bengal, went under transformation to some extent and now no longer is in practice. So this folk art can be marked as an extinct cultural practice. Similarly, other art forms that I have mentioned above are becoming weaker day by day. The folk art of Bengal is in transition. This is an era of modernization that is throwing away some old types and adopting newer types day by day, making those old cultural practices or the art forms almost as extinct cultural practices. Some folk art are becoming culturally extinct day by day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this very detailed presentation of yours, and you've very beautifully shown us the effects of modernization on the folk art of Pattachitra, and you have brought a very relevant discussion of caste vis-a-vis folk culture to this table. And so thank you for this presentation. I would now like to invite questions for this presentation. We already have two questions with us. One is by Professor Patnaik. He asks, in your opinion, modernization helps in preservation or it changes folk culture to popular culture? Who has used the term pot show for Pattachitra?
Thank you for the brilliant question. First of all, I want to say that the modernization is changing the whole society. Not only the folk art, the whole society is changing with the modernization and westernization, and the culture is becoming a hybrid culture, better to say a multicultural perspective is developing in the whole India. And in Bengal, the folk arts, some of the folk arts have been modernized, and some of the folk arts are extinct now or almost extinct now, such as Krishna Jatra, which is no longer in practice, and the modernization has devoured these folk arts, and due to modernization and the emergence of newer types of entertainments, these folk arts can attract the younger generation or the people of West Bengal now, and that's why the folk art is just going to be or becoming some extinct art, and which are taking place in the museums or some art museums. Hello, am I audible to you? Hello.
Yes, you are audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Thank you.
Sir, there's another question by Dr. Uma Devi. She has two questions. The first one is, she asks, who are upper caste people?
The upper caste peoples are Brahmins and Kayasthas, and generally for those who fall in the general group and having having achieved quality education and having a good lifestyle, and mainly the people of the urban areas.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. She has another question. Just a second. She asks, can you explain the process of steps of modernizations or modernization. Process, explain the process or steps of modernization.
Steps of modernization. Please clarify the question properly. I want to know which you or what you are wanting to know. Steps of modernization. Here what I have said is that after the British rule, India started adopting the Western culture, and after the independence, India is adopting the American culture, and nowadays it is an era of Americanization, and we are very much akin to the American culture, and we are following the American culture, and those European and American cultures are generally taken as modern culture.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We have another question by Ms. Ruchi Rana. She asks, what is the nature of this transition within Bengali folk art? How do you see this change impacting the folklore in new mode?
If we take particularly the pot show, we can see that after the European Union's endeavor to collect the pot shows and to create an archive, the artists of pot show are making more pots, and they are selling those pots in urban areas also, and a fair called Pot Maya was started in Tingla, and this can be termed as a transition, because here we are not accepting the folk art, that is, the folk art is not flourishing, but this folk art is becoming an area of research only, or an area of archiving, or an area that can be placed in the academia, and that can be put to the museum, not to the common people. That is, the folk art is losing its relevance, that is the educating quality or entertaining quality that it had earlier.
Okay, thank you, sir. So she adds, what is the influence of other cultures on Bengali folk art?
What?
So she's also asking, what is the influence of other cultures on Bengali folk art?
Influence of other cultures on Bengali folk art.
Yes.
If we analyze some pot songs, we can see that the songs are narrating stories of the world wars, and the stories of the Titanic, and the cinema of the European states, and Bollywood also. And these songs are narrating the European culture also, that the very point where the Bengali people are adopting the European culture or the American culture, that is, they are becoming accustomed to visit cinema halls, to visit theaters, and to wear costumes that usually used in America and the European states. And these songs marks the transition of the Bengali culture, where the Bengali culture is transforming into a new culture, that is a hybrid culture, where the Bengali culture is mixing with other cultural traits, becoming a hybrid culture.
Okay, thank you, sir. There is another query. Sir, you forgot to answer this question by Professor Patnaik. He had also asked that who used the term pot show for Pattachittu? Hello, sir. Am I audible? Pradip, sir? I think there is.
Okay, I think his mic gets noise, so let's just put that. But one more participant is there, you know.
Okay, sir. So then we shall
So,
proceed.
no problem. He's joining. He called me and Mr. Balachandra
Okay, sir.
from Tamil Nadu. So you close this because Mr. Khan's mic is.
Yes, sir. I will just. Thank you, Tridip, sir. So, meanwhile, there are two speakers left, Aditi Sangha and Balachandra S. If any of them are here, please raise your hand so we can add you as the co-host. Shall we be as... sir, we cannot hear you, sir.
No, he's joining. He's called me.
Okay.
He's joining. He called me just now. And let us unmute all the mic for some time.
Yes, sir. So if any of you have any queries, suggestions, or comments, please feel free to put forward your view till we wait for the next speaker. Oh, he's here, I think.
He's joined, no?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Good morning. Good morning, everyone here.
Welcome.
Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Sir,
Thank you.
So you have 20 minutes for the presentation as
Okay.
it is, and we can take up the discussion after you have presented. So, sir, please begin with a brief introduction of yourself, and you may proceed, sir.
Okay. Well, I'm Balachandra, and I am pursuing my PhD in film studies from Tamil Nadu Open University from Chennai. And I have my postgraduate of I done my postgraduate in MSc in Visual Communication from Dialogue College, and as of now I'm my topic and my interest of research is in lyrics, music, and stardom, and its evolutions, and with the background of the cultural evolutions and cultural events, whatever happened in especially with the South India region, that is Tamil Nadu. And right now my focus is on my paper today that I'm going to present is about the substance of folk instruments in the recent decades of Tamil songs, Tamil film songs, how it has been raised, how it has become a boom of indulging the folk instruments, apart from the time left instruments like which has replaced the EDM and hip hop and the other electronic instruments. But then now I could see that that is we could observe that there is a the indigenous instruments like the folk instruments, the traditional instruments have been most included in Tamil film songs. So that is what my presentation is going to be today. Kindly just excuse me for connecting my PC, and I want to get my presentation on PC because I've been talking over the mobile.
Sure.
Can you just mention the... Okay, fine. Ms. Niharika, if you don't mind, I will be connecting both via in mobile phone and also through the PC. So my presentation will be going through the PC, and then I'll be talking over the...
Okay, sir.
I'm sorry, it's getting late.
It's okay.
Nah, I got it. Yeah. Okay.
Sir,
Sir, one small request. You keep it in silent mode, your PC.
Okay.
Then there won't be any echo. Otherwise, there will be echo. So keep your mobile. You switch off even your laptop mic also.
Yeah. My PC is mic and camera. Everything is
Now it is fine. Now it is
everything
fine.
is muted. Okay.
Now
Fine.
continue.
So I'm gonna share my PPT screen here. Okay. Okay. Can you just able the screen sharing from Bala official? You know, from I've been requesting for a screen share. Should I raise a hand? Like
No. You are okay. 1 second. 1 second.
I'll raise my hand if you can't find me that in my
Yes.
PC.
You can share now. You can share. You can share your screen now.
Sir, I want to share my screen from my PC actually.
1 second. 1 second.
That is.
Can you raise? Okay. Can you raise your hand? Because
Yeah.
I don't know which.
So my
Raise hand means
my
I
PC
think
is Balachandra official. That's Balachandra official.
Balachandra. Okay.
Balachandra official. My mobile phone is my mobile connection is Bala official.
Yeah. Now you can use both. Okay. Now you can share.
Okay, sir. Okay. Can you see now?
Yeah, it's starting. Just wait a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, now it is visible.
it is
Please
visible
continue.
now.
Is it visible? Okay.
Yes, sir, we can see it now.
Yeah, fine. First of all, I would like to thank the Modern Indian Languages Department of Delhi University for giving me this wonderful opportunity to present my paper. That is a subsistence of folk instruments in the Tamil film songs in the recent decade. And I thank everyone who is present here as a participants also. So my paper is about the existence of Tamil film songs. I mean, like existence of folk instruments in the Tamil film songs. As you can see that, this is the poster that I have been collected, from the various films in the recent decades that for the past 10 years, from various films that which includes the top-notch heroes or like Rajinikanth, Surya, Jay Sethupathi, Dhanush, all these, these films include at least, one peppy number of, one peppy number of songs which includes the folk instruments. Which I can say is that basically I'll be describing about what are these folk instruments that has been used in all these songs and which has made these singles and also these films to score the box office collections. It has been a rising culture that we can observe that the folk instruments and folk songs were being mostly included in even in the films which does not have a folk or a rural background at all. So when I observe this, this has something which is to be connected with our culture, and especially with the Tamil culture, which has been spoken in vast areas, and especially after the emergence of the social media, the present trend and the present viral culture, what I can observe is that valorizing and praising of Tamil culture in connection with the music, in connection with the with the clothing, in connection with the food. Everything has been associated with this, that I could see with this, with more appropriately pertinent to the inclusion of this folk songs in the Tamil films. And academically speaking, and formally to commence with the music and instruments, how we define music and how we see instrument is that Woody Guthrie is an American folk songwriter and also a composer who describes about the music and especially about the folk music and people, is that he says that the best way to get to knowing any bunch of people is to go and listen to their music, because he considers that when you listen to the folk music, or when you want to understand any culture or any civilization, and he is just suggesting to us to listen to their music, so that music can carry the culture and can carry the habits and the habitats of any culture or any civilization. That is what Woody Guthrie is saying, and I vouch for it. On the other hand, a popular definition of Hornbostel's formulation on music, how music can be defined, is that he says that for purposes of research, everything must count as a musical instrument with which sound can be produced intentionally. And here they are bringing up the subject of intentional, of marking up what can be considered as a music instrument, and what cannot be considered as a music instrument. On that account, he's saying that whichever is producing a sound, and for that matters, historically, basically our two hands are a musical instrument, a primary musical instrument, where you can produce a sound, a clap sound, with with which producing a sound, and this case considered to be an instrument. So that is what a Hornbostel is claiming for. And and connecting with my topic, the folk instruments. The folk instruments that I consider, and is that we all consider, is an indigenous and a historical traces of time, the historical time bound instruments which have been which I have come across. And then the one online website which defines both the folk instrument, that is freemusicdictionary.com, is claiming that folk instruments are those instruments made and used by the indigenous people throughout the world. Many of the instruments are simple percussion instruments, but others may include flute type instruments, the bow, and various trumpet type instruments, as well as some quite complex instruments such as the bagpipe and the banjo. So here we can find that the instruments, mostly the folk instruments, or from the percussion and the flute and the wind type, or it does have a historical traces of the existence of right from the the emergence of civilization, and so many years we have passed through. So the categorizing of musical instruments is three major classifications that we can do, is of traditional and folk instruments, and traditional or folk are more or less the same. Basically, any musical instruments, most of all the musical instruments can be classified into percussion, wind, and string. And any instrument, most of all the instruments comes under this category, and we will be seeing what are those percussion instruments, or what does wind instrument and string instruments comes under. And the other popular categories which has emerged after some time, and maybe we can call it in the recent centuries, are the brass instrument and electronic instruments. And the brass instruments, which I can give you an apt example, is that a saxophone, alto saxophone, trombone, trumpet, all these instruments are brass instruments. And electronic, that which we can be, which is quite evident, is keyboard and computer-based, software-based instruments. the keyboard, after the invention of keyboard, I think most of all this percussion, wind, string, everything has been replaced, and that is where the millennium and the post-millennium and the 90s film songs have been cultivated and it has been incorporated. But these percussion instruments, wind instruments, string instruments, still in existence, make like it marks its importance, and it marks its what to say, like its importance and its very important existence in the film music, in the production of film music. So what we can see is that folk instruments, percussion instruments, or the definitions are that like any instrument. The percussion instruments are basically it's an animal skin mounted onto a ring frame of wooden or metal frame, and which is basically producing sounds by hitting or striking with either the hands or sticks or the brush. That is what the percussion instruments. So for an example, the drums, tambourine, xylophone, and mridangam, tabla, tawil, all these instruments are called as percussion instruments. And the wind instruments, the woodwind instruments, like they come in two categories. That is, one is a blowing instrument with reed and without reed. That is what basically here it is describing. The two categories are, one is a flute based, a flute type. Flute type means it will not have the reeds. It will not have reeds. So you can blow it very plainly, like which will produce a sound by creating, through creating a vibration. And with the reed instruments will create the sound by creating the vibration through the reeds. So that is what basically it is the difference between the like with reed and without reed instruments. And the string instruments are basically like violin, guitar, and mostly the tuntana, they will say, the veena, all these things, they are called as string instruments. So basically, like this class of instrument ranges from guitars and banjos to violins and harps. So it requires a movement of a string to create vibrations that create sound, and either by plucking or bowing. We all know this. And the main thing is, like here I introduce what is my focus on the folk instruments, which is relevant to Tamil Nadu and Tamil film songs, is the percussion of folk instruments, the woodwind folk instruments of Tamil Nadu and around, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Kerala, I might not as well included much of the instruments here as considered with the time bound, but anyways, like I might try to cover up as much as possible. So this tawil is one of the main instrument. It's a popular folk instrument which is used in Tamil film songs right since the 1970s or 1960s, even 1960s, that I can say, right? Hailing from M.S. Vishwanathan sir to Ilayaraja to A.R. Rahman, most of the popular musicians, the stalwarts, have used this tawil instrument. So tawil instrument is a South Indian instrument, is a barrel-shaped percussion instrument, which is mostly accompanied with like a nagaswaram. This is a semi-classical instrument which can be also used in Carnatic concerts and also in the folk form, in the folk songs. And also in the Nayandi Melam and Periyam Melam, they will use this, like tawil. So basically, the difference is, like when they use one stick, and on the other hand, they use this, like their fingers. That is for Carnatic and classical. And whereas if they use two sticks in both hands, like in both the hands, then that makes the sound of, like producing a folk song effect. So that makes the difference. So, and tawil is one of the popular instrument which has been created which has been included in Tamil film songs. And the second one is a very most and very vast popular instrument which is called parai. So parai means to say or announce historically, and this instrument, like it's a very ancient instrument, like to get the, like it's been used to get the attention of the villagers or to announce something, which has been used right since the ancient times. And Parai has a very major role in Tamil culture and in Tamil film music also, for creating it, and for creating a vibrant sound. And some claim that this music is has been is mixed up with Tamil people and Tamil culture. That is what they used to say, because Parai is a part, and it is part of our culture. It is part of our each and every event of cultural events, hailing from temple to the funeral of any deaths. So it holds a strong and a major presence in Sangam literature and ancient literatures, wherever you take, right, hailing from Tolkapiam. This Parai instrument has made its marked its major presence in marking up its presence, right, since its ancient time to the Tamil film songs as of now, right, till today. So I can give you best examples after watching two other instruments. I can show you one clip. So this is called Pambai. So Pambai is a pair of cylindrical two drums, is which is played in with one is made out of wooden, and another is made out of brass. One will be the bigger one, the other one the smaller one, which creates the distinct definition and differentiation of bass and treble sound. This is mostly played in this is also played mostly in the cultural events and also in temple functions mostly. And and the traditional ensemble Nayandi Melam includes this Pambai. Without this Pambai, they can't conduct, they won't conduct this temple function at all. So as such, it has a valor of marking its presence in all the traditional events and folk events, especially the Karahatam and most of all the Devaratam. All these folk art forms will include this Pambai. And I will show you how these songs have been included in the Tamil film songs for the past years. And Urimi is just nothing but, this one part of the Pambai is called as Urimi, this Urimi Melam. And it is I don't think so that it needs much explanation after we have seen the Pambai. So if it has been played singly, then it is called Urimi, and if it is played with the double cylindrical drums, then it is called Pambai. So that is the basic difference. But then the Urimi has its own distinct sound by creating by striking the the one side of the Pambai, the one side of the Urimi. If it has been one-sidedly striked, it creates a dragging sound, which creates a unique sound of creating a different tone, which is that is what I can say. And coming to the wind folk instruments, there's Nagaswaram, which is a popularly known instrument, Nagaswaram, which is again used right since M.S. Vishwanathan's the music direction to till now the present music directors, they have been using Nagaswaram. And this Nagaswaram is also a semi-classical instrument, but also folk instrument. So where does this makes where it makes the distinct differentiation is the sound and the reed. If it is played with the 2.5 notes, they call it 2.5, 2, 1, 1.5 notes. So if it is played with the 2.5 notes, it is called it will create the Carnatic sound, and the Carnatic people use 2.5 reeds. And the folk people and the folklore people, they use it. They use two sized reeds. And by biting the reed, it's basically a double reed instrument. So biting the reed, it creates a folk sound. It creates a sharp note, so that the folk people use Nagaswaram and also Carnatic people use Nagaswaram, but both in a different way. And what makes the difference is the reed what they use, and that makes a distinct sound. And it goes well with the Tawil and also with the Pambai. And Shanai, I think most of all the people know that North Indian instrument, but it is also similar to the South Indian Nadaswaram, and it is a short, it is very short, and which is very similar to Nadaswaram. But the sweetness of Shanai is that whenever it is reused in, and I think Shanai was mostly used by A. Rahman's composition, and in most of his songs he has incorporated Shanai sound because of it's quite its unique sound quality, its distinctive quality. That's what I can say. Like it is more similar to Nadaswaram, but it also gives a very sharp tone, and it can create a lot of gamakas, and also it can give a lot of a folk effect, and it is also used in the folk floor also, because as I have gone through this Shanai, most of all the indigenous group in Goa, Konkani, and traditional tribe people are also using this Shanai. And I can also give you a best example of Shanai, which is used in Tamil film songs. I'm going to play some, some two songs of Tamil songs which has used all these instruments that I can say. Okay, so this instrument, okay. Can you all hear now?
No, sir.
Can
So
hear this?
you will have to unmute your PC, sir, and
Okay.
mute the one, the
Okay.
mobile one. Yes, sir. So please unmute your PC. So can you increase the volume? So also your screen is half visible to some of us. So if it is,
Sir, there is a screen sharing option. In that, there is an option share sound also. You have to click that option. You stop again, reshare. Stop sharing, then again go to previous one, then again you click on share even sound also. There is one option.
so we can't hear you since your phone is on mute. So.
Well, I have muted my mobile phone, and then I have just unmuted my PC, but I don't know why it's not creating any sound.
Mr. Radhachandra, I think we'll have some other occasion to listen. We'll definitely invite you.
Yes, sir.
So let us proceed with whatever, because otherwise it disturbs.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Okay, fine. So can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay. So, okay, again, back to the PowerPoint. Can you see the PowerPoint?
No, sir. So the screen is stuck. So
not.
Sir. So we can now.
I think there is a delay in.
Okay.
Well, actually, I wish that you should have all heard to that sound. It's a very beautiful composition, and it is a very beautiful sound they have created in the film. So, anyways, I will show something, which is this. Actually, this is a video where the Ma Dakhina Kali Singha Bajja troupe of Odisha folk group have featured in Rajinikanth's film Peta. And in one Pepi number, they call it as a Marana Mass. So I'll just put here. Can you hear?
No, sir.
Mr. Balchandra, we have already
I
shared
can-
the information that those who are interested can listen it through YouTube.
Yeah.
It is there in YouTube, so they can do that. Listen.
So I think now you can hear. Now just now I have switched on the sound.
So it is not audible. So
Let us proceed.
yes, sir, I think
There
there
is
is
a technical problem, sir.
Yes,
You
sir,
can
there's a
proceed, sir.
technical problem. So you may proceed with the
Presentation.
presentation, please, sir. So the voice is breaking. So
Okay, can you hear me now?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. So please proceed with the presentation.
Okay, fine. So my observation of all these inclusion of folk instruments in the recent times of Tamil cinema is that in most of all the films, all these instruments have been used in the film music production and film songs music production. And I look at, the observance is that the people and the audience who are showing up interest towards the Tamil culture and and also the contents which is getting viral in social media. Also after this post protest of Jallikattu, which I can say, which has marked this major event in the history of Tamil Nadu. The people have shown more interest in getting back to the roots of their culture and getting back to the roots of their their soil, and then revisiting the culture has been increased, that I can say. So as well, the modification of these songs, which was earlier considered to be the song, the songs are called as Dapangutu, or or Gramat song, they call it as village songs. So once what they have called it as a village song or Dapangutu or a folk song is now considered to be the a pepi number. They call it as a pepi number. They call it a pepi item number, pepi dance song, pepi things. Why it is being called pepi? Because it is being celebrated by lots and lots of youths, and lots and lots of people started to share, and then they have started to show interest towards the roots of our culture. That is what I can say. And then the viral content. And one more thing, what makes this viral is that nowadays what we can say is that the very important thing is that the numbers. What now earlier we used to say numbers are just numbers, but nowadays numbers are not just numbers. They are all money. They are all making a major element in the business of filmmaking and distribution and selling its selling. And then the YouTube views, the Twitter likes, the Facebook likes. This makes the huge difference in in making the box office. A film which has been made by that time itself, they are the pre theatrical release selling is more important. It has been considered as of now. That is what I can say, because and these songs whichever the song which marks its presence and which leaves its footprints in the heart of audience, that is having a great impact in making the movie a huge success or failure, or whether it is by making a box office or anything else for that matters. So these folk numbers have become like kind of unavoidable in every film, irrespective and irrelevant to whether the movie has a rural background, whether the movie is picking up the rural background or not, whether the movie has a relevance to that to it in including the folk songs or not. It has become immaterial. It has become immaterial, and then in including all these songs. That is what I say. And also we observe that now the thing which has been trending in Tamil Nadu is that the trending in Tamil Nadu is organic. They call it organic, irrelevant to their, relevance to their food, relevance to the clothing, relevant to the usage of the consumerism and consumable products, everything, they tag a line called organic. And since these folk songs are very much organic, by including the folk instruments, and it makes the songs very organic, and it gives an impression that, okay, fine, we have created an organic song, we have created an organic culture where you can go back to your roots and then enjoy these songs and enjoy this multicultural, a historical and ancient tradition which we have, which we have been in the past area of, we are living in the past era. So I conclude that still, there is an emergence of folk songs, and it has become at least one folk instrumental song has been included in every nine films of 10, out of 10 has been included. And I think it's my observation, and I also think it's good for the folklore people, and to keep the folk instruments alive and for the rest of the years. Thank you so much for giving me a wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for this interesting and very detailed presentation of yours on folk instruments in Tamil songs. So it was very informative, and so we would have loved to listen to the song, but unfortunately, we could not. So, sir, if it is on YouTube, you can share the link in the chat box.
Sure. I will put it in.
I now invite questions for this presentation. So we have a question from Ruchi Rana.
Sure.
So she says, thank you for the interesting presentation. I'd like to know social, cultural, and artistic influence of this expansion of Tamil folk instruments on their own traditional musical form in its original performance space. How does so just a second.
This inclusion impact the life of the traditional artists?
Yes, sir. And she also asked, how does this inclusion impact the life of traditional artists?
Well, thank you, Ruchi Rana, for asking me a beautiful question. It's actually a beautiful question. What I can say is that it's an excellent thought. That what we say is that nowadays the traditional art, the folk arts, have been dying just because of the emergence of the social media and film, especially, that I can say. And during this quarantine, even the films and the theater have also been closed and locked down. And now we can see an emergence of OTT platforms have been rising up. And then, so every time, what I can say is that every time, each and every time, whether in regards of whatever the technology is been developing, any folk art form, all the folk art form will find its own way to, exist, find its existence in any form. That is what I can say. So now what we can say is that since the films are popular, the social media are popular, I think this helps the folk artists and folks, folklore alive, to keep it alive. Yes, of course, it has an impact. It has both pros and cons of keeping the folk art and also the traditional artists keeping alive. Maybe what I can say is that on one hand, this gives a pavement of introducing the folk art form and the folk artists who have been playing that for several years through films, songs, and through films, or for that matters, once the film songs gets very popular, and after that, like everywhere people start to search about what is that instrument, who are those artists. So it is happening on one side. On the other side, sometimes only that film song will alone, it will get popular and viral, and after that, that is like it just shut. The respective artist, the original artist, or the original art form, some art forms that I can say, some art forms will never get its address again. But the song which has included that art form, which has included that instrument, that will create millions and millions of dollars, and those artists will be like popularized, but leaving the original artist in vain. That is what my my observation that I can say. And I would like to know social, cultural, and artistic influence of this expansion of Tamil folk festival. I think I have answered your question. Yeah, Ruchi.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So we have another question from Gayatri M. She says, as you mentioned about the Parai instruments used for ancient to till now in Tamil Nadu, in Sangam literature, Kurun Thogai, pardon my pronunciation, it is played for wedding ceremonies, but now the actual practice is opposite, like it is recited for death ceremony in Tamil Nadu. How you are seeing this opposite transformation? What is the politics behind the literature to actual practices?
Well, actually, this is a very cheap caste politics that we all know, which has been prevailing for the past 3,000 years. I don't think that I wanted to introduce about casteism in India, as we all know what is going on in India. In India, like no art is a pure art. No art is a pure art. Everything will be linked with either with the caste or with the gender inequality. That is what gender biasness. That is what I can say. But for you, Gayatri, what I can say is that there is a changing culture in Tamil Nadu. I don't know whether you have observed it or not, because I am a performing artist. I am a performer. So I have been into various places in Tamil Nadu, not only in Tamil Nadu, also to the other parts of India. Especially with Tamil Nadu, like speaking, respective with Tamil Nadu geography, what I can say is that now there has been a lot of movement. Then now there has been a lot of schools have developed in practicing Parai. Now that is why I have included this image, which I have shown you in the presentation. Both girls and boys, they have come, come up, they have come front to learn Parai. And there is one group which is called Buddhar Kalai Kulu from Chennai. They have been conducting free Parai workshops every week, every weekend on Sundays in Chennai. Even during the quarantine, they have been conducting. And that including the so-called upper caste, the so-called lower caste, whatever. I'm sorry, I don't buy that. But for document purpose that I'm saying all these things, kindly pardon me. But whoever, like even hailing from Brahmin to Dalit, everyone is playing Parai. So nowadays, Parai is not only limited with the death ceremonies. If you look at the if you look into the temple ceremonies of South Indian regions like Tirunelveli, the western regions of Erode, Tamil Nadu, Erode, Coimbatore, and Tirupur, you go there, like the first respect, the first ritual respect of any temple functions will be given to the Parai people only, the people who play Parai, who are playing Parai. So I don't buy that, and now it is there is a transformation. If you are more concerned about this, and if you are more concerned about that, I sympathize with you, and then also I want to enlighten you with the newer thought that the times are changing now. The times are changing now, Gayatri. You don't need to worry. Yes, Parai is everywhere nowadays. Without Parai, there is no Pepi number songs in Tamil Nadu, in Tamil film songs. Okay, fine. So, any next question?
Yes, sir. There is another question by Mitali Burman. She says, nowadays the mass of the youths in India are accepting the remix versions of folk songs more And this is the case throughout India. My question is, what is preventing the modern popular singers to sing the original forms of the folk songs? Is it happening for good or bad, or is it inevitable and we just keep on moving with the popular flow?
Again, I appreciate Mitali Barman for asking this question, and especially I appreciate him for putting up the way, like he has put, like in composing this question. He has composed really good, like, and that itself gives the answer, Mitali. What the thing is, we have to understand one thing: evolution, the theory of evolution. The art will not get die. The art form might, like get modified. Earlier, it was offline. We can only see, like in presence. I mean, like in person, only we can see on live. Only if you can see on live, you can see a drama, you can see a musical concert. That was earlier concepts. But later on, the emergence of radio, we used to listen and we couldn't see. And after the emergence of television, we can listen and also we can see. And after the emergence of internet and computer, earlier television, if you can only see while they are broadcasting at that time. But after the emergence of this internet, you can revisit the same concept at any time. So this is a evolution. It is a theoretical evolution. And modern popular singers, why they are not singing the original song? Okay, fine. Will you listen to the original song if I sing the Kishore Kumar song as it is, how it has been composed as how R.D. Burman, S.T. Burman have composed? Like maybe I can hear and Mitali Burman can hear. But here again, it is a number game, Mitali. It is always a number game when it comes to the matter of art. And especially when it comes to a matter of cinema, it is not only the art, it also have a trade. It is a trade, it is a business. Kindly understand that. So here, everything is business here. Everything is seen as also as money, not only as pure art. So whichever comes under this category of trade and business, then the number games play. So the majority, like the majority of the people, what they like, what kind of music they like, what kind of the music and what kind of the format they wanted to hear and they listen. Nowadays, it is all about, whether it is death or marriage or everything, whatever, it has become all similar. Whether my grandma is dead or whether my brother is getting married, we want a music, we want food, we want good food, we want good music, we want to have good time. That is what most of all the people's concept nowadays. I mean, the youths that I can say. And the times are changing. So this what makes, to keep on, like changing formats. But what I say is that the format and the platform may change, but the art will not die. That's what my answer is.
Thank you so much, sir. We don't have any more questions.
Okay.
So, because there's no time left now, so
somebody, Babita has asked question.
Just one more question. So we have
okay,
5
let us
minutes,
keep it as a last question.
We have 5 minutes, so I think we can take
the inclusion of folk music and folk instruments like hierarchy in terms of who does not does in terms of
with the inclusion of folk music and folk instruments like Parai and films, the caste hierarchy in terms of who does what has blurred to some extent as people from all castes and communities participate in films. Do you see this in a positive light?
Okay, fine. This question itself is a wrong question because I want to enlighten Babita with one thing is that, Babita, Parai is not associated with any caste. First of all, try to understand that, or else I am giving you the first information that Parai is not associated with any caste at all. Parai is a unique instrument. Parai is a historical instrument. Parai is an ancient instrument which is used before the invention of caste. Before the invention of, it was invented by a human society. That's it. We are all humans. That's it. Any instrument is created by humans. That's it. So art is created in such way. But I can understand the question that where you are pitching. The pitching of your question, I can understand. Yes, as the time passed by, in the history, Parai was, it was secluded to one certain caste and one community, one certain community, and it has been done, and exactly it has been prevailing. Like all these years, like Parai is only meant for scheduled caste people and for one certain people. Yes, we agree that, but inclusion of Parai in film music, it will not bring any change in the day-to-day life, in the reality. That is what I can say, because very frankly speaking, if any for that matters, I'm sorry to put it in this way, I put it in a very plain way. If anyone upper caste society, so-called upper caste society, or so-called some people, if he is acting like a proletarian, or if he is acting like a low caste person, do you think that the whole community of that group, that actors group, will change, and then they will adopt the other people? Will they take up them in all their hands? Definitely not. So inclusion of these instruments will not create any change in their lives, a change in the culture. The inclusion and the change has to come to our mind. The change has to be created in our mind. If only we change our mind, we can create a good, healthy society without caste, without gender bias, everything. All the bias, all these, nasty things. If we come out and if we see any art as a pure form of art, and if we start to enjoy and celebrate those art as an art form, then it will be, we can see a positive light. There you can see a positive light. So the light is inside our mind, not in the Parai or not in any art. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And since it is already 11:59, so I would like to close the session. And so we come to the end of this session. I congratulate all the speakers. Thank you for bringing such interesting and relevant discussions around folk life to the table. And I thank all the participants, speakers, faculty members, and my fellow students for being a part of this session. Our next session will be at 2 p.m. So please join us using the same link. Thank you, everyone. See you all at 2.
So will this chat box will be open so for a while, so that I can post the songs URL in this YouTube URL?
Sure, you may take a couple of minutes. You can post your link.
Okay.
You ask him to give the link so that we can watch our show.
Yes, sir. He's just posted the link. He has posted one link.
Just 2 more songs.